Welcome on board, and Jayakumar, MD Prime Securities, to talk about this in the overall market as well. Jake's morning. Thank you so much for your time today. Tell me, what is it that you're making of Trump's announcement that he's going to sign this executive order that's going to reduce prescription drug and pharma prices? You've been pretty vocal about this.
Well, I think, thank you for having me over. And before I even get to the markets, I think just a moment of a collective bow, if you will, for the Indian Armed Forces. I think we're all here, continuing with business as usual, principally and only because of them. The unsung heroes of those who've been protecting us for the last decades and decades, especially for the last few days, and also for the scientists and technologists at DRDO, ISRO, and BEL, HAL, etc. I think the fact that Indian defense, both technology and the Indian defense has come of age has never been more exemplified than in the last few days. Just thought I'd mention this. Would be remiss if I didn't do it before we start the process of market discussions. So coming to the pharma thing itself, first of all, I think Hindi mein they call it Khwabi Pulao, and in English it would be called a pie in the sky. This kind of an order, an executive order to control free market prices in the US. I think it's littered with litigation. This executive order, to my mind, will be challenged in courts almost instantly if you start controlling prices of drugs. I think the real issue, which is, which has been missed out in this, is that the US pharma distribution, and I just want to dwell a moment on this, is being done through 3 or 4 very, very large pharmacy or distribution chains like the CVS, the Boots equivalent in the UK, US, etc. So these 2 or 3 control virtually the entire retail, 80% of the retail distribution of pharma products. The mom and pop shops, by the way, there have been videos on this on the Doge site, which indicate that the mom and pop shops still sell drugs far, far more reasonably than these 3 or 4 very large distributors. And the unholy alliance, if you will, has been that much of that money, the margins they make, goes into campaign funding, which has been alluded to in that tweet of Donald Trump. See, that you must understand that generics, let's say if it's sold at $1 in the US, gets marked up to $4 or $5 when it finally hits the consumer as generics purchasers, where the patented equivalent may be selling at $10 to $15. So that's the markup that is being attempted to be, in a sense, or is being consumed by the middlemen. If that 5 were to come down to 2 or 3, I think the end result is that consumers will get drugs far, far cheaper. This is not an issue of more control or price control. This is actually eliminating, if not improving, the distribution chains in the US. That's the problem. And there is in any case no way that in a free market an executive order can be passed to reduce prices and everybody sort of agrees to it. Will not happen. And the most important thing again is the US needs more generics, not less generics. And I think that's the important thing here.
But Jakes, we've seen that these intermediaries or insurance companies, they are the ones who are calling the shots. We've seen that, earlier also, that they really squeeze it out when it comes to the suppliers and the generic companies. So if their margins are slashed, why can't they squeeze it down further with the generic and with the producers?
The $1 in any case has a 20% markup, which means that if you had 80 or 82 going to $1, 0.82 going to 1, and 1 going to 5, you figure it out for yourself where the margins will get slashed. First of all, I think even as a thought, this is alien to a free market, and the epitome of free market, if you will, the prices will get slashed through executive orders. I think if there were sort of structural issues that could be addressed in terms of distribution, and to make sure that prices that generics companies are getting is close to what the end consumer is paying, I think there is some sense in this. I don't personally believe that. Frankly, if you ask me the number of executive orders, this administration is running on executive orders as if everything in life is an emergency-based situation. So I don't even think this will. Far from people coming to the conclusion that these will have an impact tomorrow morning. I don't think this will have any impact because this can't even be implemented.
So today pharma stocks, they fall, then logically one should actually be buying them because today they will fall.
I mean, logically, the lowest cost producer in the world has to be bought into. Now, between the lowest cost producer in India and in China, if there are higher tariffs on China compared to India, logically the Indian generics manufacturer is on a better footing than this Chinese equivalent. But there are no arguments in this point that between India and China, we produce the lowest cost drugs in the world, the equivalent of the patented products, the generics equivalents, if you will, and to go after those to try and reduce their costing is not going to give you any great saving. The big problem, I repeat, is that generics, once they land in the US, are not selling at 1 going to 1.2 to 1.5, but at 4 and 5x. That is the problem.
Okay. Now, within the pharma space, there is generic, there is injectable or broadly prescription and non-prescription. How does it work for India? What is prescription as percentage of the total market? What is non-prescription? Because for non-prescription, I think nothing changes here.
Well, I think these are terms that are loosely used. My own personal feeling is that I don't think this tweet has been timed. I don't think this is being thought through. The problem I'm repeating is not about the prescription is just what your clinician or your doctor would prescribe, which could be either the patented product or its generic equivalent. So issue is not about prescription, issue is the concept itself. You want to bring down product prices, you need to slash the distribution costs, and that brings you to a more fundamental issue that doing business in the US, whether distributing pharmaceuticals or producing anything through a manufactured setup, it is extremely expensive. It's the most expensive in the world, which is why the US has been forever focusing on exporting of services and importing of manufactured products. That's the way trade is. That is, you lean upon somebody who is more equipped to produce something. So if there's technology, entertainment, IP around financial services, those are the kind of exports that they're able to do compared to what the rest of the world can do, which is largely the emerging markets, which is stuff like textiles or pharmaceuticals or gems and jewelry or whatever, because that's where the manufacturing costs are lower. Now, it is not about one category vis-a-vis the other. I'm fundamentally saying that for people to jump to conclusions that this is going to bring cost down by 80%, I think it's a pie in the sky. This is not going to happen, and I don't think this will see the light of day.
Jakes, other than that, so much was talked about and so much uncertainty regarding what's going to transpire out of the US and China trade deal, right? Now it seems like it's headed the right way. The trade talks in Geneva were productive. That's the word coming in from Scott Bessent, saying that President Trump was fully informed about the discussions as well. Do you think an overhang, or rather a big overhang, gets lifted from equity markets?
I don't think so. I'm very skeptical of these announcements that get made with no details, saying wait for tomorrow. I mean, quite honestly, and I don't want to go down this path of, in whose interest these announcements are, but I mean, these are just announcements. My own assessment is that there are some real basic issues about tariff imposition that the Chinese aren't going to take kindly, and they aren't about to be squeezed into a deal. We got some hints on some tweets which indicated some IP infringement. They would stop, and they would stop producing, lookalike Nike and lookalike Apple products, etc. I think, this is, quite honestly, this is like the theater of the absurd, actually. You can't just on a 2-hour meeting in Switzerland suddenly decide that all your issues have been addressed and you're moving towards it.
Hello.
Does that, somebody saying hello? Is that a daughter calling up early in the morning, Jakes? It cannot be a wife, I'm sure.
No, it's not at my end at all. I think it's at, I think in the EP now. It's not at my end. I'm sitting in a quiet room and they would say disclosure with access to nobody, and I can see and hear everyone clearly.
I'll check at my back end. Who's calling Jakes right now? He's on TV, guys, remember. ET now, please note. Jakes, what could be the impact of this ceasefire? We've not spoken about it because last week Indian markets did not collapse. we were down, but we were not out. Do you see a meaningful impact because of what's happening on the border front?
I think we should now maybe start terming it cessation of firing rather than a ceasefire, because I think it's important to understand that all the conditions India have put need to get adhered to, and therefore, from that perspective, most people did not see an extension of this war, and yet, whether it's HNIs or people in general, large investors have been selling. But you see, very interestingly, over the last 1 week, institutional investors have been buying every single day, and the markets haven't really gone below 24,000. So what was 21,900 to 22,300 a few weeks ago is now probably close to 23,500, 20,000, 24,000. And my own assessment is that the structural advantages of India at this point, which has been sort of talked at length on multiple channels, including yours, is here to play out. And I would suspect close to about $2 to $3 billion of HNI positions have got squared off, and the market is where it is. So I think the market is a buy on every dip, especially large HNI money will come in on most dips. And I think institutions continue to buy. Your previous guest, Mark Mobius, talked about how he would like to invest in India. And he interestingly talked about the pharmaceutical space and a few other spaces, which he wants to invest in. So, I'm sure people are reading the same tweets and same headlines. And I think if people are seeing the problems besetting China was not a credible place to do business in, you can't trust them fully, I think the US, with its maverick policies, sort of WhatsApp and Twitter-based policy announcements, I think is getting less and less credible. The dollar is clearly showing the way, and I think we need to watch out for two things. The rising yields in the US, because they're again moving up close to the 4.9 on the long bond and 4.5 on the 10-year. The refinancing of US debt is going to become more and more of an issue. And the dollar index, which is around the 100 levels, having tested 98 recently, I think continues to march downwards. So there is going to be, I think, a reallocation of at least currencies to whether it's a Swiss franc or whether it's the euro or otherwise. So I think those are indicating where money is moving. And make no mistake, US exceptionalism is a term of the past and is certainly not an event of the present. Money is moving out of the US. Money is not going necessarily to China. Money is coming to the rest of the world. So even if you were to be a complete doubting Thomas and say, no, India, it cannot come to immediately, it's a wishful thinking. I think money is coming to India, whether directly or through allocation into emerging markets. And people have been naysayers, people have been extremely bearish and cautious, and those are exactly the recipe-inducing components of a next bull market.
For your time today. Thank you so much for it.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.